This is WCI-TV, and it is brought to us all, of course, by Tower MSA Partners. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Hamlin, and I've got the pleasure now of being joined by Greg Hamlin, who is with Berkley Industrial Comp. And give us some thoughts, if you would, first about the company, and maybe talk about your relationship with Tower.
Absolutely. So I'm the Chief Claims Officer for Berkley Industrial Comp, and we are a monoline work comp carrier that focuses on high hazard workers' compensation insurance. So think of jobs where there's lots of danger involved, high risk. Maybe they're up at heights, cell phone tower workers, steel erection, explosives, mining. So very challenging jobs where they don't get hurt very often, but when they do, it's a challenging injury. So my team's very specialized in helping with those types of cases.
And how do you work with Tower MSA?
Great question. So Tower really helps partner with us as we try to move these claims to settlement to make sure that we get the right information for a Medicare set-asides so that everything's lined up so that we can resolve the claim.
Give us some thoughts, if you will. We're talking about your relationship with Tower, but also the relationship in the industry about partners. And that's kind of a theme for these interviews, is we want to talk a lot about partnership and the value there. What are some of the things you look for as a good partner, as a good vendor?
I think one of the most important things is communication and being able to meet the needs of our particular operating unit. So there are some very large organizations that maybe they can cover everything across the United States, but they don't know my adjusters, they don't know my business, and if they don't know what we're trying to do, then it can make it challenging. So I think understanding what we do, the way we do it, and then working together so that we can make sure we're getting the best outcomes is key.
Maybe discuss for those that might, I don't think anybody's too confused by it, but at the same time, there are differences between being a vendor and being a partner, and you don't want to stand alone in this industry.
Right. There are lots of vendors out there, and there are lots of choices on those vendors, but I think for me, what's made our operating unit so successful is building partnerships with those vendors. And when I think of a partnership, it really is a win-win where we're working together to get the best outcomes. They understand what we're trying to accomplish, and they know what our goals are, and they communicate. And when there are challenges, we're talking. And so I think, to me, when I think vendor, that personal touch is missing.
Give us some thoughts, if you would, on long term, because you mentioned partnerships, and we talk about relationships, but like a good marriage, you want it to last as long as possible. And so how do you see the qualities of both parties coming together in a good partnership relationship?
I think a good stewardship program helps a lot when there's accountability on both sides, and then providing us the opportunity to look at, well, what are the areas we can do better, so it goes both ways, and then being open on the things that aren't working, and then talking about those things. And I think one of the things I've learned is sometimes when things go wrong, you really can tell the difference between a vendor and a partner, because when things go wrong, that's really an opportunity for everybody to get better, and when it's not seen that way or it's not addressed, that's where things can get off the rails.
Can you drill down for us and give us an example of something perhaps that developed into a good long-term relationship?
Sure, I'll give a great example from I'll flip roles and put me in the other side of the seat. So of course we're a carrier, so we have insureds that we're trying to work with, and we had a particular claim that the statute had run on, but so there was no benefits owed, and this individual was key to this insured. And so we could have gone through the normal steps of filing a denial and closing the claim, but instead we made a call with the insurer. We talked through that situation. We made sure they understood why we were making the decision, and then we talked about the best way to communicate it. And they said, we'd really like to have a conversation with him first before you send that letter out. And I said, we can work with you to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction. And a couple days later, I got an email. They're very pleased with our relationship with them. So I think sometimes even when the answer might not be the answer people want to hear, if everybody's communicating and working together, that difficult situation can turn into something that makes your customer service special and stands out.
You can tell how much you enjoy the industry and you love the industry.
Yes.
You do a podcast too.
I do.
And,
I do.
That's fun. Tell us a little bit about that.
So our podcast is called Adjusted. I started it 3 years ago, and the concept of this was to look for ways to change the workers' compensation system so that we could get better outcomes focusing on recovery and trying to do the right thing. And so we have had guests from all over the industry talk about everything from how to listen more effectively to what's an EMOD. And we try to keep them short, like between 45 minutes, and they release every 2 weeks. So it's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, any of those. And we've won several awards for our efforts to kind of open this up.
Well, perfect. Greg Hamlin, everyone should look for your podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us.
It was great.
And this, of course, is WCI-TV, sponsored by Tower MSA Partners.